When we pray, our angle should be toward God and not toward us initially.
Everything you've ever been taught about prayer, about speaking to God, about connecting with the divine, has been only a shadow of the truth. The very words you recite with reverence, words millions have memorized for centuries, might not even be the full message. What if the prayer you hold sacred is like a sealed letter, a message written in invisible ink, and only the truly attentive heart can read it? The hidden power behind the words. You thought you knew the Lord's Prayer. Many know it by heart. Many speak it aloud without pause. It is familiar, comfortable, even comforting. Yet, as with so many ancient teachings, there is a depth hidden beneath the surface. Jesus did not hand down a mere formula. He revealed a pathway, a code for the human spirit to awaken, a map to align the soul with the infinite. And if we rush through it, if we merely repeat the words without understanding, we risk missing the miracle entirely. Think of the parable of the sower. The seed falls on different soils, hard paths, rocky grounds, thorns, fertile earth. The same is true for the words of Jesus. Spoken without attention, they fall on the path. Spoken without heart, they struggle on rocky soil. But when understood, when embraced with intention, they take root in the richest part of our being. And this prayer, in its original essence, is meant to reach that fertile ground within every human heart. What many do not realize is that the Lord's Prayer, as recorded in modern texts, has been simplified, sanitized, and in many ways misinterpreted. It has been shaped to comfort the masses, but Jesus' words were designed to challenge the soul, to provoke thought, and to awaken a hidden power within each of us. He spoke in parables, yes, but his teachings carried a precision that went beyond metaphor. Every word, every syllable had a resonance, a frequency that could transform consciousness itself. Consider the first line, "Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name." On the surface, it sounds like a respectful acknowledgement, something familiar, something we've recited since childhood. But pause for a moment and let the words sink in. There is nothing ordinary here. Every phrase is layered, every word a doorway to a truth that most have never seen. Our Father. He didn't say father the way we think of a dad, the comforting figure who might smile from a distance or guide us when we err. He used a word that carries multiple layers, a word that points far beyond human notions of parenthood. This is not some dear man in the sky who watches and judges. This is the source of all creation, the intelligence that flows through every atom, every heartbeat, every thought. It is not outside of you, it is within, it is the spark of life itself, the eternal pulse that animates everything. When Jesus said Our Father, he was asking something radical. Recognize divinity in yourself and in all things. He was inviting intimacy with the infinite, a connection so immediate it cannot be ignored. The divine is not up there, waiting for us to earn favor. It is the essence of life itself flowing through the breath you take, the thoughts you think and the choices you make. Philosophers from the East, Taoist masters, Vedantic sages have all echoed this same truth. The divine is not separate. It is the very core of your being. Yet how often do we pray as if God were a distant figure, removed from the pulse of our daily lives? Jesus was teaching radical intimacy with the infinite. Then comes the next phrase, "Who art in heaven." Most hear this and think of clouds, stars, and a realm somewhere above. But Jesus was clear. Heaven is not a location. It is a dimension, a state of consciousness, a level of perception that exists beyond ordinary awareness. When he said the kingdom of God is within you, he meant precisely this. The divine is accessible in this moment, here and now. Heaven is the dimension where alignment with the source is absolute, where the flow of life is uninterrupted, where creation is understood not as random events, but as a conscious interplay between the seen and unseen. To say, "Who art in heaven," is to point us toward this higher awareness, to remind us that we carry the divine inside, that our reality is co-created from this inner kingdom. And then, "Hallowed be thy name." On the surface it sounds like praise, but look closer. Hallowed means sacred, revered, honored, and name is not merely a label, it is essence itself. To hallow the name is to recognize the sacred in life, in yourself, in every moment. It is to see the divine vibration in the mundane, to honor the source in every breath, every thought, every interaction. When you recite this line with awareness, you are not simply speaking. You are attuning your consciousness to the sacred pulse of creation. God is not a distant authority, but the living, flowing intelligence within you. This first line alone contains a map for awakening. Our Father calls you to intimacy with the infinite, who art in heaven, reminds you of the inner dimension of divine presence. Hallowed be thy name teaches alignment with the sacred vibration of life itself. Internalize it, and the rest of the prayer begins to make sense on a much deeper level. You are no longer asking for blessings from a distant God. You are awakening to the presence of the divine flowing through your own being, guiding, creating, sustaining, and illuminating every moment. The radical truth here is shocking in its simplicity. The God Jesus referred to is not outside you. The kingdom is not above you. Heaven is not a place. It is a state of awareness, a conscious alignment with the eternal intelligence that flows through everything. And when you pray this line consciously, you are connecting with that source, opening yourself to its power and participating actively in the creation of reality. And then there is the next line, often rushed or ignored. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. On its face it may seem like a simple hope for divine order. But what if this was a direct call to action? What if Jesus was saying that the kingdom is not somewhere we await in the afterlife, but something we are called to create here now? Every thought, every choice, every act of compassion is a thread in this kingdom. Theologians, mystics, and even psychologists have long hinted at this. Spiritual transformation is never separate from real-world action. Yet, in many sermons, this line is treated like a polite wish, rather than a powerful blueprint for awakening human potential. And the line that has mystified scholars for centuries, "Give us this day our daily bread." Bread is simple, ordinary, yet in the hands of Jesus it becomes profound. Bread is life, sustenance, nourishment for the body, yes, but also for the soul. What he taught is not merely to ask for what we need, but to acknowledge the miracle of abundance already present. Every morsel, every breath, every moment carries the divine spark. To pray in this way is to awaken gratitude, and gratitude is not just a feeling, it is a force that can shift reality. Many spiritual traditions, from Buddhist mindfulness practices to the Native American concept of giving thanks, stress this same principle. Gratitude is the bridge between the human and the divine, but here is where most of the world misses the shock of Jesus' teaching. The Lord's Prayer is not a string of words to be memorized. It is a living instruction, a spiritual technology. Every phrase, every cadence, every pause carries intention, designed to align our consciousness with the vast unspoken laws of the universe. To truly grasp it is to awaken a consciousness that sees beyond cause and effect, that touches the eternal within the fleeting moment. By now you might feel a stirring, a sense of anticipation, even unease. That is exactly the point. The path of awakening is not comfortable. It challenges every assumption, every belief you hold, but it also offers freedom. The freedom to see life as a continuous miracle. The freedom to recognize the divine not only in the sky, but in the simple, everyday moments. The freedom to live fully, intentionally, in alignment with something greater than yourself. Forgiveness, temptation, and the secret power of letting go. There's a moment when a prayer shifts from words to a living force. The first part of the Lord's Prayer opens the door, but now we step inside, and it's here that the teaching becomes even more radical than most ever imagined. This is the part that shakes the foundations of conventional belief, forgiveness and temptation. If you've ever felt the weight of anger, resentment, or guilt, this section was written for you. Yet almost no one understands the power hidden in these words. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Simple, familiar, even polite in its phrasing. But Jesus' intent was anything but polite. He was delivering a profound spiritual law. Your ability to forgive is directly tied to your ability to receive divine guidance. Hold a grudge, and you block your own connection to the infinite refuse to forgive, and you remain imprisoned by the very energies that keep you stuck in fear, anger, and sorrow. Jesus is teaching that forgiveness is not only a request we make to God, but a practice we must enact ourselves. True forgiveness is a radical act. It breaks the chains that bind the soul. It is an active release, not a passive wish. In many ways, it mirrors the Stoic philosophy of releasing anger and resentment, not for the sake of others, but for the liberation of the self. And in that simple exchange, this prayer contains a power that can reshape human relationships and inner life alike. Think of the parable of the unmerciful servant. A man is forgiven a debt so massive it could never be repaid, yet he refuses to forgive a fellow servant a small sum. When you understand the story, it's not just about moral behavior, it's a map of consciousness. Jesus is revealing that forgiveness is a force, a vibration that opens the soul to higher frequencies of love and insight. Without it, even prayer becomes a hollow repetition. But here's the shock most people miss. This isn't only about forgiving others, it's about forgiving yourself. Many traditions, from Buddhism to modern psychology, stress the importance of self-compassion. The unforgiven self becomes a prison, a constant internal antagonist, and when we pray for forgiveness, we must first extend it inward. Jesus' instruction is layered. It's a mirror. What you offer outwardly, you must first cultivate inwardly. And then comes the part that chills even the most faithful, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. On its face, it may sound like a request to be shielded from sin, but consider the original Greek phrasing and the deeper spiritual context, and a radical teaching emerges. Jesus was not asking for a life free of challenge, he was pointing toward mastery over the inner battlefield. Temptation is not an external force, it is the shadow within us, the friction of desire, fear, and ego. To pray this is to ask not for avoidance, but for awareness, for clarity, for guidance to see through illusion. Temptation is universal. Even the wisest, the most enlightened, face it every day. The Buddha spoke of Mara, the tempter who challenges our insight. Jesus faced the wilderness, the same test, showing that the path to mastery is through the very fires we fear. And yet, so many miss this teaching. They pray for protection from challenges, never realizing that the challenge itself is the teacher. The prayer calls us to the courage of awareness, to confront shadow, and to act with intention. Deliver us from evil. Here is another layer, another revelation hidden in plain sight. Evil is not just an external villain, a force that attacks from the outside. Evil is the distortion of life, the twisting of love into fear, greed, and separation. And the deliverance Jesus speaks of is an inner process. It is not a petition for divine rescue, but a recognition that we must navigate the currents of life with eyes wide open, with hearts aligned to truth, and with the willingness to act in ways that reflect the light even in darkness. Think of philosophies that speak of duality, the Taoist yin and yang, the Hindu concepts of dharma and adharma. They teach that life is a constant balance of opposites. The Lord's Prayer mirrors this. We ask not for life to be free of challenge, but for wisdom to act rightly within it. We seek guidance to walk the narrow path between desire and restraint, shadow and light, fear and love. Here's the part that shocks even seasoned spiritual seekers. These lines in the prayer contain practical instruction on energy management, intention, and consciousness. They are not abstract. They are tools. Forgiveness releases the past. Awareness of temptation strengthens discernment. Deliverance from evil sharpens the mind, purifies the heart, and opens channels to receive inspiration. This is the secret technology of prayer that Jesus embedded in every phrase. Every word is designed to transform the practitioner moment by moment, choice by choice. And yet most people recite these lines mechanically. They sound familiar, like comforting words from childhood. But Jesus' true teaching is disruptive. It demands honesty, courage, and self-reflection. It calls for a confrontation with the ego, the impulses, the patterns we hide from ourselves. It asks, in essence, are you willing to see yourself fully? Are you willing to confront your shadows without blaming others? Are you prepared to step into the raw, transformative power of forgiveness and self-mastery? Some may resist this idea. It feels unsettling, even dangerous, because it strips away illusions. It shows that prayer is not about escape, not about wishing life to bend to your desires. It is about awakening to the living, breathing flow of truth and aligning yourself with it. It is about claiming the sovereignty of the soul, and it is about realizing that the kingdom Jesus spoke of, the one we ask to come on earth, is not somewhere far away. It is here, inside the act of facing temptation, in the practice of forgiveness, and in the courage to act rightly even when the world seems unjust. Philosophers like Marcus Aurelius would nod at this, teaching that virtue is the only true possession, and that external forces cannot touch the soul that has mastered itself. Mystics from Rumi to Meister Eckhart echo the same sentiment. The divine is realized not by avoidance of struggle, but through conscious engagement with it. And this is precisely what Jesus encoded in the lines of this prayer. So as you read these words anew, do not treat them as recitation. Treat them as instruction. Treat them as a mirror, and most importantly, treat them as a challenge. A divine dare to step into a life where forgiveness, awareness, and courage are not abstract virtues, but living forces shaping your every thought, every decision, every breath. Forgive, and forgive deeply. Look into the mirror of temptation and see the shadow for what it is. Begin to feel the hidden currents of power running through every syllable. You're only scratching the surface of what Jesus truly revealed. And the deeper you go, the more shocking the truth becomes. The kingdom, the power, and the shock of eternal presence. You've repeated it countless times. You've ended your prayer with these words often, without a second thought. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Comforting, familiar, ceremonial. But what if I told you that these words were never meant to be an ending? They were meant to be a revelation so profound it could upend everything you thought you knew about reality, about God, and about yourself. Here's the first shock. The kingdom Jesus speaks of is not a distant land, not a future promise, not a reward for good behavior after death. It is a present, living reality. The kingdom is the awareness of life as it truly is, the recognition of the eternal in the now. Mystics throughout the ages, from the Upanishads in India to the Desert Fathers in Egypt, have whispered the same truth. Eternity is not a point in time, it is the pulse of existence itself. And this line of the Lord's Prayer is Jesus pointing directly to it. Notice how he pairs the kingdom with power. This is not the power of dominion, not authority over others, not even political might. It is the power of alignment. The power to act from the deepest truth within you, in harmony with the flow of life. Think of the Taoist principle of Wu Wei, effortless action. The power of the kingdom is subtle, unseen, yet unstoppable. When you pray this line with awareness, you're not asking for strength, you're acknowledging that strength already exists within you, flowing in perfect rhythm with creation. And then comes the word that many skip over in their rush to finish: glory. Not glory as the world defines it, fame, recognition, applause, but glory as the inner radiance of the soul that lives fully in connection with the divine glory, is the reflection of your true self, shining without resistance. It is the natural byproduct of forgiveness, courage, and awareness, the same elements we explored in the previous part. The Stoics would call this virtue, mystics call it the reflection of God in the human. Jesus calls it life. There is a shock hidden in the forever at the end of the line. Forever is not merely about time stretching endlessly into the future. It is a reminder that the kingdom, the power and the glory are not conditional, they are eternal, immutable, ever-present. Even when you falter, even when the world collapses around you, these forces exist, waiting for you to recognize them. Time is a teacher, yes, but it is also an illusion, a construct. The prayer is teaching you to access the eternal in this moment, to align with the infinite while walking in the finite. Think of the parable of the mustard seed. Jesus said the kingdom starts as something almost invisible, tiny, easy to overlook, yet it grows to unimaginable heights. This is precisely what these closing words are pointing to. The realization of eternal presence begins quietly, within the heart, within intention, within awareness. It may seem small at first, almost imperceptible, but its effects ripple outward, touching every corner of your life and potentially the lives of others. What shocks most is how few realize that this line, repeated in prayer for millennia, is an instruction in consciousness, a practice in manifestation. Every time you affirm the kingdom, the power, and the glory, you're not just praising something outside of yourself, you're waking the potential within. This is the thread connecting you to every enlightened mind in history, from Rumi spinning in ecstatic dance to Marcus Aurelius quietly meditating in his study. It is the recognition that the infinite is already within you. The prayer is simply the key to unlocking it. There is another layer, subtle but crucial. The prayer, in its original rhythm and cadence, is designed to train the mind and heart. Recitation becomes meditation. Awareness grows. Energy flows. You're literally aligning with the cosmic currents Jesus knew existed and understood intimately. Each phrase acts like a tuning fork, resonating with frequencies that awaken latent potential, dissolve blocks of fear, and sharpen intuition. And yet, here's the paradox. This power is not about control. It is not about forcing outcomes. It is about surrendering to reality while remaining fully present, fully engaged, and fully alive. In other words, the prayer is both a call to action and a practice of surrender, a delicate balance that is at the heart of every great spiritual teaching. By now, you may feel a shift, a subtle stirring within, perhaps a tingling awareness, or a quiet recognition that these words carry more than comfort. They carry responsibility. Because once you truly grasp the kingdom, the power, and the glory, there is no turning back. Your life, your decisions, your relationships, your understanding of reality itself begins to change. And this is exactly what Jesus intended. He was not offering a simple ritual. He was offering a roadmap to spiritual sovereignty. The hidden forces, the flow of life, and how prayer shapes reality. If you've ever wondered why life sometimes seems like a series of coincidences or worse, like the universe is working against you, this is the part where everything starts to make sense. The Lord's Prayer is not just words. It is a living conduit, a bridge connecting human consciousness to unseen forces that flow through the universe. Most people never realize this. They pray out of habit, out of tradition, or out of hope, but without awareness, those words remain like an unplayed instrument, capable of music yet silent. The first thing to understand is that the universe operates on laws far subtler than the ones we see in daily life. Gravity pulls a rock, wind moves a leaf, and yet there are currents, hidden streams of energy that guide our experiences, our relationships, our opportunities. Mystics, sages, and spiritual philosophers from every corner of the world, from the Kabbalists of ancient Israel to the Taoists of China, have recognized these unseen forces. They have names for them: chi, prana, mana, divine flow. Jesus, in his teachings, was pointing directly to these currents, teaching a method to align with them without ever naming them as such. Think of the line we often repeat: "Give us this day our daily bread." On the surface, it seems mundane, a simple request for food or sustenance, but when examined through the lens of energy, consciousness, and manifestation, it becomes revolutionary. Daily bread is not just physical nourishment, it is recognition of abundance as a spiritual principle. By asking for it consciously, you are signaling to the universe that you are ready to receive, that you are attuned to the flow of life, that you are acknowledging the resources available in the infinite web of existence. And here is the shock most people miss. Prayer is not passive. Words alone do not create change. The energy, intention, and awareness behind the words are what activate the currents. Every syllable spoken with consciousness, every phrase recited with understanding is a ripple that moves through the invisible layers of reality. Just as a pebble thrown into a pond creates expanding waves, the words of the prayer, imbued with intention, create waves that affect the world around you. Consider the principle echoed in so many spiritual traditions: as above, so below. This is not poetic filler, it is a law of correspondence. The inner state of your mind, heart, and soul has a direct effect on the outer world. Your words, especially spoken with awareness and faith, are an extension of your inner vibration. When you pray, you're not asking God to intervene externally. You're aligning yourself internally, and as your internal alignment strengthens, the external world responds. The currents of life begin to shift, not because they are controlled, but because you're no longer resisting them. This brings us to forgiveness and its subtle power. When you pray, "Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us with understanding," something remarkable happens. Forgiveness is not a moral nicety. It is a clearing of energetic blockages. Holding resentment, anger, or fear creates tension in your energy, like stones in a flowing river. The water cannot move freely, but forgiveness releases those stones, allowing energy to circulate unimpeded. This is why Jesus paired this line with a mirror. Your ability to forgive others is directly tied to your ability to access divine flow. Without it, even the simplest requests in prayer are slowed, obstructed, or diverted. Now let's explore temptation. "Lead us not into temptation" is widely misunderstood. Most people pray this as if asking to be spared from moral failure. But Jesus was teaching mastery over inner forces. Temptation is not an external test. It is a challenge within consciousness itself. Desire, fear, ego. These are the currents that buffet the mind and soul. Prayer aligned with awareness strengthens your ability to navigate these currents. It is like tuning a sail to catch the wind just right. The more conscious your prayer, the more adept you become at steering through life without being overturned by impulse or distraction. When we speak of unseen forces, we are not just speaking metaphorically. Modern physics, quantum theory, and consciousness studies hint at layers of reality that interact with intention. Observers change outcomes. Energy follows thought. The Lord's Prayer, in its original resonance and structure, was designed to tune the human consciousness to these layers. Each line is like a frequency, calibrating the mind to the subtle energies that shape circumstances, influence interactions, and create opportunities. Many scholars have noted that the original Aramaic phrasing carries vibrations that are lost in translation. When spoken aloud in their original cadence, these words act like keys, unlocking receptivity, focus, and alignment. It is not magic. It is physics, psychology, and spiritual truth wrapped into a simple practice. And this is why Jesus insisted on simplicity. The more complex the words, the less the resonance reaches the soul. The prayer works because it is concise, rhythmic, and full of intentionality. Take the line about the kingdom again. "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven." This is a masterstroke in spiritual engineering. It is not just a wish, it is a declaration of alignment. By saying this, you are inviting the universe to manifest divine order through you. You are claiming participation in creation. You are acknowledging that your consciousness is not separate from the flow of life, but a co-creator with it. And the shock of this is staggering. You are far more powerful than you have ever been taught to believe. The kingdom is not coming from somewhere else. It is being realized through your conscious participation. Now consider the connection between intention and manifestation. When the prayer is said with full attention, the energy of your mind, the emotion of your heart, and the vibration of your voice combine to produce real effects. Every act of clarity, every moment of surrender, every pulse of love sends ripples through the unseen currents. The philosopher William James hinted at this over a century ago. Belief shapes reality. The mystics call it the law of correspondence, and Jesus, thousands of years ago, encoded this principle into a simple, repeatable prayer. Many people wonder why prayer sometimes fails. The answer lies in energy, awareness, and alignment. Words without presence are like tuning an instrument without playing a note. Repetition without consciousness is empty. True prayer moves you from resistance into flow. It clears fear, dissolves doubt, strengthens intention, and releases the inner power of love. It transforms not because a deity grants a wish, but because the person praying has transformed their own consciousness and, in doing so, influences the currents of reality. Even small changes in understanding produce massive effects. If you begin to recognize daily bread as a principle of abundance, rather than a material request, your perception shifts. If forgiveness is internalized as energetic release rather than moral obligation, relationships, health, and opportunities begin to align differently. If you approach temptation as a chance to practice mastery, rather than avoidance, you develop resilience that ripples into every aspect of life. And if you grasp that the kingdom, the power, and the glory are present in every moment, you begin to experience the eternal in ordinary reality. There is a practical takeaway here, one that many modern spiritual teachers have only begun to articulate. conscious prayer, intention, and alignment create measurable shifts in the field around you. Psychologists studying mindfulness and focused attention note physiological and cognitive changes. Quantum physicists suggest that consciousness participates in reality's unfolding. Ancient wisdom, modern science, and the Lord's Prayer converge on the same truth. What you focus on, what you cultivate in awareness, what you allow to flow through your heart, these are the real forces shaping your life. And yet even this is just the surface. Jesus' teaching contains subtle instructions for navigating these currents in ways most never perceive. For instance, the phrasing of each line, the rhythm of speech, the focus of intention, all work together to create resonance. This is why repetition with awareness is far more potent than mere recitation. This is why parables were necessary. They teach not only moral lessons but guide the mind to perceive hidden patterns, to see currents invisible to ordinary perception, and to awaken latent spiritual faculties. By now you should feel a sense of tension, of anticipation, of awakening. This is intentional. The Lord's Prayer is designed to do exactly that. Awaken the seeker, disturb complacency, illuminate the hidden pathways, and provoke realization. It is not a gentle ritual. It is a dynamic, transformative process, and the forces it interacts with, the currents of life, the flows of energy, the subtle vibrations of existence, are always active, always listening, always responding. You've felt it, the pulse beneath the words, the invisible currents flowing through your awareness. The prayer in action, transforming reality and unlocking hidden potential. The Lord's Prayer is no longer just a ritual or a habit. It is a living system, a spiritual technology, a map of consciousness designed to align you with forces that most people never even notice. And here is the shocking truth. When applied consciously, this prayer can change your life in tangible ways. It can shape your reality, transform relationships, heal hidden wounds, and unlock abilities you may have thought impossible. It is recognition that the universe is a limitless source of sustenance, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Every request in prayer is a declaration of alignment, a signal to your consciousness that you are ready to receive. And here's where the first shocking insight emerges. The act of asking consciously, truly asking with awareness, triggers a shift in perception. Think of it in terms of energy. When your mind focuses on lack, scarcity, or fear, your energy constricts. Opportunities pass unnoticed, insights are blocked, and life seems heavy, difficult, or unfair. But when your attention is tuned to gratitude, abundance, and presence, when daily bread is recognized as life's continuous nourishment, the energy opens, patterns shift, connections appear, synchronicities emerge. Those random coincidences are no longer random at all. They are the natural response of the universe to your alignment. Forgiveness amplifies this effect. It is an energy-clearing mechanism. Carrying resentment, anger, or judgment is like trying to walk with weights chained to your ankles. It slows your growth and clouds your perception. When you forgive, you release these weights. You open channels for insight, intuition, and creativity. And here is the shock most people never realize. Forgiveness does not only change the one you forgive, it transforms the one doing the forgiving. It realigns your consciousness with the flow of the divine, removing barriers to abundance, clarity, and inner peace. Temptation is another arena where the prayer's hidden power emerges, its focus on mastery rather than avoidance. Life is full of challenges, distractions, and desires that can derail us. Most spiritual teachings emphasize resisting temptation, but Jesus goes deeper. He teaches awareness, discernment, and conscious navigation. When recited with mindfulness, this line becomes a mental compass, guiding you through difficult choices and risky situations. It strengthens discernment and empowers you to act from alignment rather than impulse. And now we reach a part that shakes even seasoned seekers, the interaction of the prayer with your environment. Every conscious recitation sends ripples through your relationships, your work, and your surroundings. The energy you generate does not stop at the boundaries of your body. It radiates outward, influencing others, attracting opportunities, and opening doors that seem improbable or even impossible. This is why Jesus taught the prayer as a unifying act, Our Father, because it is not just about your personal alignment, but about harmonizing with the flow of collective consciousness. Consider the kingdom again. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Here is where the prayer intersects with manifestation. Every conscious act, every alignment of thought and intention contributes to the realization of divine order in the world around you. This is not superstition. Modern studies in psychology and neuroscience show that focused intention, visualization, and emotional alignment produce measurable effects: clarity in decision-making, improved problem-solving, enhanced creativity, and even changes in physiological states. The prayer, when fully understood, is a system for harnessing these principles effortlessly. The shocking implication is this: you are far more powerful than you have ever been taught to believe. Every time you recite these words with awareness, you are not begging the universe for favor. You are activating capacities that already exist within you. You're synchronizing with life's currents, clearing blockages, and amplifying your capacity to receive, to perceive, and to act. The Lord's Prayer is a tool for spiritual engineering, a blueprint for self-mastery and conscious creation. Now let's consider the practical applications in everyday life. Start small, begin with awareness. Don't rush the words, feel their meaning, their energy. When asking for daily bread, truly acknowledge what abundance already exists around you. The air you breathe, the relationships in your life, the knowledge you possess, the moments of joy and learning. When practicing forgiveness, feel the release of tension, the lightening of your heart, the sense of freedom that comes from letting go. When facing temptation, pause and ask the prayer consciously, allowing it to guide your awareness and choice. And here is another secret: the prayer also shapes perception. The words you speak influence your attention, and your attention shapes reality. When you focus on abundance rather than scarcity, on compassion rather than judgment, on divine alignment rather than fear, your perception changes. You start to notice opportunities, resources, and synchronicities that were always there, but previously hidden. You begin to act in ways that feel natural yet profoundly transformative. Even the closing lines, "For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever," serve as practical tools for embodiment. Speak them consciously, and you are affirming your alignment with eternal principles. You are claiming participation in life's flow. You are activating the hidden capacities within your own mind and heart. And here is the final shock. When you combine all lines of the prayer with awareness, intention, and presence, you are not just transforming yourself, you're subtly influencing the fabric of reality around you. Relationships shift, conflicts dissolve, doors open, and life begins to align in ways that feel miraculous. Some might doubt this, some might call it coincidence or wishful thinking. But the truth is in the practice. Thousands of years of spiritual teaching converge on this principle. Conscious alignment, mindful prayer, and inner mastery produce results. Science is beginning to catch up, with studies showing that focused intention, gratitude, and forgiveness have measurable effects on health, cognition, and social connection. And Jesus, millennia ago, encoded this wisdom in a simple, accessible, repeatable form: the Lord's Prayer. The ultimate lesson here is not power for ego, it is liberation. It is freedom from limitation, fear, and resistance. It is the opening of eyes to see life as it truly is, not as the mind interprets it in moments of stress, anger, or doubt. When the prayer is applied consciously, it becomes a doorway. Step through it with intention, and you begin to live as the co-creator you were always meant to be. Practice the prayer consciously. Notice the subtle changes, the small synchronicities, the shifts in perception, energy, and connection. The Lord's Prayer is more than a set of words. It is a living system, waiting to be awakened, applied, and lived. And the more you align with it, the more reality itself begins to respond. Because this is the secret Jesus taught that most have never understood. Prayer is not passive, it is active, dynamic, and transformative, and when fully applied, it reveals the true power of the human soul. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.